Welcome to Cheating Diaries. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The porch light was off when I pulled into the driveway. My heart thudded in my chest, a mixture of exhaustion and growing frustration tightening my muscles. This wasn't unusual anymore. Emma had been distant for months. Nights out with friends, endless excuses, and a wall of secrecy that kept me on edge. I stepped into the house. Silence greeted me like an old adversary. The faint scent of her favorite perfume lingered in the air, but she was nowhere to be seen. A half-empty coffee mug sat abandoned on the kitchen counter, lipstick smeared on the rim. "Emma!" My voice echoed through the empty rooms, but there was no response. I moved to the living room, where the glow of her phone's screen lit up the couch. I froze. A text notification flashed across the screen. "Can't wait to see you again. Tonight was incredible." My breath caught and my hands clenched into fists as a torrent of emotions surged through me. Rage, betrayal, but most of all, a cold, icy resolve. This wasn't the first sign. Over the past year, I had noticed her detachment, the growing divide between us. Every time I tried to bridge it, she brushed me off, claiming it was just work stress or a need for space. But this was undeniable. I picked up her phone, scrolling through the messages. Each word felt like a dagger to my chest. His name was Chris. Their conversations were flirtatious, dripping with hidden meanings and an unmistakable undertone of betrayal. The final message was the worst: "See you at the Golden Vine tonight. Can't wait to hold you again." My vision blurred as the weight of the truth settled in. She wasn't out with friends, she was with him. I sank onto the couch, my mind racing. For years, I had been the constant in her life, the one who supported her dreams, stood by her through every storm. And now she had thrown it all away. But I wasn't going to let her destroy me. Not without consequences. A seed of a plan began to take root. I wasn't just going to walk away. If she wanted to gamble with our life, she would learn the hard way that some losses are irreversible. I retrieved a stack of papers I'd been preparing for months, the divorce documents. Alongside them lay a detailed ledger of every financial safeguard I had put in place, ensuring that if this day ever came, I wouldn't be the one left in ruins. This was no longer about saving our marriage, it was about saving myself, and making sure she understood exactly what she had lost. Fueled by adrenaline and a simmering anger, I spent the night in a blur of action. Everything had to be meticulous, calculated, and irrevocable. The first step was simple. I left the divorce papers on the kitchen counter, accompanied by a velvet box containing her engagement ring. Beneath them, I placed a handwritten letter. "Emma, for years I've loved you more than words can describe. I've believed in you, stood by you, and hoped that you'd choose us over fleeting distractions. But love isn't enough without respect and commitment, and your actions have shown me where your priorities truly lie. I won't beg you to change. If you still want a life with me, you'll know where to find me. I'll be waiting at the Pinewood Suites, room 304, until 5 p.m. this Friday. If you don't show, I'll know we're done. The papers are final. Think carefully before you make your choice. Luke." After placing the note where she couldn't miss it, I took the next steps to secure my future. I activated the financial safeguards I had set up months ago. Joint accounts were closed, assets moved into untouchable accounts, and every shared subscription and payment tied to my name was canceled. If she wanted freedom, I would give it to her, but not at my expense. By morning, I was checked into the Pinewood Suites, the weight of my actions finally settling over me. I stared out of the window, the city lights blurring in the distance. This wasn't how I had envisioned my life, but it was the only way forward. Now all I could do was wait. Everything a part of me still hoped she would come. I'd left her the choice to meet me halfway even after her betrayal, but as the hours ticked by, my hope dimmed. Friday arrived, and the clock in my hotel room seemed to move slower with every passing second. At 4:30 p.m., I sat by the window, staring at the street below. Was she on her way? Did she even care enough to try? By 5:30, it was clear she wasn't coming. I stood, every emotion boiling to the surface: anger, sadness, and finally resolve. She had made her decision. Now it was time for me to move forward without her. I left the hotel and returned to our now empty house. The quiet was deafening, but it didn't bother me. I wasn't staying here. The realtor was already lined up, and the house would be listed within days. When Emma finally came home that evening, the reality of her choices hit her. She called my name, her voice tinged with irritation and confusion. Then she saw the letter, the papers, and the empty spaces where my belongings had once been. I watched from my car, parked down the street, waiting to see her reaction. The light in the kitchen flicked on, and I imagined her reading my words, the truth sinking in. She crumpled the letter in her hand, her shoulders tense with anger or disbelief. I couldn't tell which. I drove away, leaving her to face the silence of the life she had chosen. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The divorce proceedings began immediately, and my lawyer, Sarah, was relentless. Every safeguard I'd put in place was airtight, leaving Emma with little to contest. During our first court appearance, she tried to paint herself as a victim, claiming she was overwhelmed and needed an escape from our routine life. But Sarah dismantled her arguments with precision, presenting evidence of her infidelity and financial irresponsibility. Hotel receipts, messages from her phone, and even witness accounts painted an irrefutable picture of her betrayal. Emma's attorney tried to argue against the admissibility of some of the evidence, but it was no use. I saw the realization dawn on her face as the judge listened to Sarah's arguments. For the first time, she looked at me with something other than defiance. Was it regret? Guilt? It didn't matter. As the legal battles unfolded, I began to rebuild my life. I moved into a new apartment closer to the city, focusing on my career and reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. Every step forward felt like shedding a layer of pain, leaving me lighter and stronger. Meanwhile, Emma's life seemed to spiral. Mutual friends distanced themselves from her, and whispers of her choices began to follow her everywhere. She tried to keep up appearances at her job, but the cracks were visible. One evening, months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into her at a coffee shop. She looked different. The confident, vibrant woman I had once loved now seemed weary, her eyes carrying a weight I couldn't ignore. "Luke," she said softly, her voice lacking its usual spark. I nodded, keeping my response curt. "Emma." She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." I studied her for a moment, considering her apology. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind her of everything she had done. But another part, the part that had finally moved on, simply nodded. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said, my voice steady. As I walked away, I felt an overwhelming sense of closure. She had made her choices, and I had made mine. The days turned into weeks, and life began to feel normal again. Though the wounds of betrayal had left permanent scars, I channeled my energy into my work, throwing myself into long hours and ambitious projects. The distraction was welcome, but it wasn't just about staying busy. It was about building a new life for myself. Yet even as I moved forward, there were moments when the memories crept back in. Quiet evenings would sometimes bring flashes of Emma's laughter, the warmth we'd once shared, and the promises we'd made. It was like staring at a house you used to call home, now reduced to rubble. But I had to remind myself, Emma wasn't the woman I thought I knew. The betrayal wasn't a mistake or a lapse in judgment. It was a choice she made repeatedly. Each decision to lie, to prioritize her selfish desires over our marriage, was another nail in the coffin of our relationship. One afternoon, while sorting through some old boxes, I stumbled upon a collection of photos from our early years together. A younger version of myself stared back, smiling beside Emma as we stood on the edge of a cliff during a road trip. I remembered the day vividly, the way she teased me about my fear of heights, the way her laughter had echoed through the canyon. It hit me then how much I had romanticized those memories, how blind I had been to the cracks that had existed even then. Emma had always been restless, chasing thrills and validation in ways that left me struggling to keep up. I thought I could be her anchor, but she had been looking for a different kind of escape. As I placed the photos back into the box, I felt something shift within me, a release. Those moments were no longer chains holding me back. They were simply echoes of a past life, a life that no longer defined who I was. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that Emma was struggling. She had moved into a small apartment in the city and was rumored to be having trouble at work. Her once vibrant social life had dwindled, and she seemed lost. A part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to revel in the fact that her choices had led to this. But instead, I felt something unexpected: pity. She had thrown away everything we had built together only to find herself more alone than ever. One day, I received an email from her. The subject line was simple: "I'm sorry." I debated whether to open it. Did I want to give her the satisfaction of knowing I had read her words? But curiosity won out, and I clicked. "Luke, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I need you to know how sorry I am. I've spent the last few months replaying everything in my head, and I can't believe how blind I was to what I had. You were always there for me, always patient, always loving, and I threw it all away. I can't undo the damage I've caused, but I want you to know that I see it now. I see how much I hurt you, and I hate myself for it. I hope you're finding happiness, even if it's without me. You deserve it more than anyone I've ever known. Emma. I read the message twice, my emotions a mix of anger, sadness, and closure. She was right, she didn't deserve forgiveness. But in that moment, I realized I no longer needed to carry the weight of her betrayal. I didn't reply. There was nothing more to say. Over time, the pain of Emma's actions faded into the background. I began to build a new version of myself, one that was stronger and more self-assured. Friends often commented on how much happier I seemed, and for the first time in years, I felt free. I met new people, explored new hobbies, and even began to entertain the idea of dating again. But this time, I wasn't looking to fill a void. I was looking for someone who truly valued partnership, honesty, and respect. One evening, as I walked through the park near my new apartment, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The sun was setting, casting golden hues across the sky, and the laughter of children filled the air. I thought of Emma, not with anger or regret, but with gratitude. Her betrayal had been a painful lesson, but it had also been a turning point, a chance for me to rebuild my life on my terms. For the first time, I realized that I wasn't just moving on, I was moving up. As the months turned into a year, my life underwent a quiet transformation. I'd reclaimed my happiness, but it wasn't the flashy, surface-level joy Emma had always chased. It was a deeper, more grounded contentment. My career was thriving, and I had surrounded myself with people who respected and valued me for who I was. But just when I thought I had put it all behind me, a ripple from the past returned to test my resolve. It started with a message from an unknown number. "Luke, I need to talk to you. It's important." The number was unfamiliar, but I knew instantly who it was, Emma. I stared at the message, the cursor blinking in the text field where I could reply. My mind raced with possibilities. What could she possibly want now? The divorce had been finalized, the assets divided, and the dust long settled. Against my better judgment, I typed back, "What do you need?" Her response was almost immediate. "Can we meet? Just once. I need to explain something." My first instinct was to delete the message and move on. But a nagging curiosity lingered. After everything she had done, as much as I wanted to hold on to the idea of closure, meeting Emma again was a harsh reminder of how far I had come. That cafe encounter marked the end of an era, her desperation stark against the firm resolve I had cultivated. Walking away wasn't easy. The ghost of our shared past lingered momentarily. Yet, as the door swung shut behind me, so did that chapter of my life. Returning to the world I had rebuilt, I felt lighter. My work thrived, and I immersed myself in the vibrant city life that once felt foreign. Weekends were no longer quiet reflections of a broken marriage. They became adventures, visits to art galleries, hikes on scenic trails, and laughter shared with a growing circle of friends. I wasn't running from my memories anymore. I was crafting new ones. There were moments when curiosity tempted me to check up on Emma, but I resisted. Her struggles, her choices, they were hers to bear. Mutual friends mentioned her occasionally, in passing comments that carried no weight. Whatever ripple she had caused in my life had long dissipated. Months turned into a year, and with each passing season, I noticed a profound shift in myself. I was no longer defined by the pain of betrayal. My identity had grown beyond the confines of what had been broken. Life, with all its imperfections, felt full again. One evening, as the sun set over the city, I found myself sitting on a park bench, a book in hand, the world around me alive with color and sound. A child's laughter rang out nearby, and I glanced up, smiling at the scene. A small part of me felt grateful for everything that had transpired, the good, the bad, and even the devastating moments. Without them, I wouldn't have arrived here, whole and hopeful. The future stretched out before me, not as a blank slate, but as a canvas already graced with strokes of vibrant color, waiting for me to add more. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what might come next. Emma had once been the center of my world, but I was the center now, and that realization was my ultimate victory.